Hey there everybody, Mazrock here, and today I am redoing my original Dragonflight Beginner's Guide to Blood Death Knight. I rewatched it. I am unlisting that video as of already now. I just felt I could do a little bit more and I could have done it a little bit better, so today we are going to correct those mistakes. Before we do get into it though, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It goes such a long way to helping out the channel. I cannot do this with the love and support of my patrons. There's a link down below if you wish to support me directly, and there is a Twitch link down below if you want to watch me stream, and Discord link if you have any questions, want to come by, hang out with a wonderful community full of great people. There's a that Discord link down below. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to start off by talking about blood DK defensives and active mitigation. So you have a couple of things that are very unique to Death Knight that are very, very powerful, and one of those being anti-magic shell. So this gives you an absorb shield for magic damage for a large amount. Now, baseline, this is a 1 minute cooldown, and you can reduce this with talent choices, but we're going to keep it at 1 minute for now and talk about it as a 1 minute CD. Now, this will actually, when it's up, prevent certain magical stacks from being on you. Now, bursting is this week, so we'll talk about that one right there. If you have anti-magic shell up and running while things are dying, you will actually prevent bursting stacks from even being applied to you. Yeah, this is pretty much an anti-mechanic shell. Very, very nice. As well as another thing that you can do with this, I'm not going to go listing off all the things because there's a large number. Because anti-magic shell is broke. But the last boss on Shadow Moon Burial Ground, the walking wall that comes near you, that if you touch it, you get that big deadly dot. If you have anti-magic shell before you run through the wall, you will not get that dot, and you can run through nice and safely. Very, very good ability to be using, and to be using consistently and a lot whenever you can. The next one is Icebound Fortitude. Now, there is a way with the talent options to get this down to 2 minutes right here, but we're going to run with 3 minutes for now. Your blood freezes. You become immune to all stun effects. Now, in Season 1 of Dragonflight, we have the seasonal affix Thundering, which if it's not cleared, and this will happen in Pugs, you get stunned for like 4 to 5 seconds with a big nasty dot on you, and it sucks, and as a tank, you're probably going to die. Icebound Fortitude will actually just straight up get you out of the stun. Very, very nice for Pug and Keys. Trust me, I know. I love it to death. But this is also a 30% DR. Very, very strong, very, very good. Another one is Lichborn. Now, this is a talent into this DR. Now, it makes you immune to Charm, Sleep, and Fears, which there's not a lot of those in... There's not a ton of those in Season 1 right now. There is a Charm in Shadow Moon Burial Ground, which is the Domination cast if that goes off, but that is very rarely going to affect you as a tank. But pressing this button will give you 10% leech, and a 15% damage reduction on a 2 minute cooldown. Very, very good. Very, very strong. You can also talent into Rune Tap. Now, I don't have this here, but there are, because of... I didn't notice I needed a Rune Tap until I started getting into 18, 19s, 20s. I did very, very well without it, but if you want to take a talent point out of somewhere here and put it into Rune Tap, you absolutely can, and that will reduce all damage you take by 20% for 4 seconds on a 25-second charge with 2 charges, and that will cost you 1 rune to apply. Very, very strong there as well. And up next, we have active mitigation. So active mitigation is Death Strike. Death Strike is what makes your health bar a ping pong, like it just goes back and forth. And this is going to be one of your main forms of healing, is Death Striking an enemy to get things back up. Combined with Vampiric Blood, which I actually did not talk about, and that is my bad. You embrace Undeath, increasing your maximum health by 30%, which is very big, by the way, and increasing all healing and absorbs received by 30%. Now, you can talent into this being 12 seconds total with improved Vamp Blood, but this is a 1.5 minute cooldown, and this is reduced as well with Red Thirst. Reduces the cooldown of Vamp Blood by 2 seconds per 10 runic power spent. Death Strike is 40 runic power cost, so you're going to get 8 seconds off Vamp Blood for every Death Strike you do. Very, very strong and very powerful. This is great for kind of how you like to heal up and mitigate damage. Blood DK takes the damage, and as long as you have 1 health left, you are perfectly fine as long as you have the runic power to be able to death strike yourself back up. And that is very, very important to know, because Blood Decay does not mitigate damage like other tanks, okay? It's not like a warrior where you just kind of don't take damage, and when you do, you don't have a lot of ways to heal yourself back up. It is the exact opposite. You're basically being like, hit me, hit me, hit me, and then hit Death Strike, and you heal yourself back up for large amounts of health. You will be the top HPS in your dungeon run, pretty much guaranteed. If you're not, your healer's probably just overloading you with heals and not understanding how Blood Decay really, really works. Parry is very, very important for Blood Death Knight as well, along with Bone Shield. So Bone Shield, what it is it surrounds you with a barrier of whirling bones. This is applied through Death's Caress and Marrow Rend, giving you either 2 or 3 stacks, depending on whether it's Death's Caress or Marrow Rend. And it increases your armor, and each melee attack against you consumes a charge. This does have a 2-second internal cooldown, by the way. It lasts for 30 seconds or until all charges are consumed. So this is one of those things where you absolutely need to have Bone Shield up 100% of the time in combat, and that is not optional. Absolutely, that needs to be done. My dog says hi. But parry is very, very important. So Dancing Rune Weapon on a 2-minute cooldown. Now, this is pretty easily reduced through things like Tombstone and and just parrying attacks. Sorry, brain malfunction. I have been sick lately, so we are getting there. But while active, this increases your parry chance by 40%. So different ways that you can increase your parry to make this worthwhile is your critical strike rating. Now, one of the things that I see a lot is, oh, I get a 3% increase to my critical strike chance, I gain more parry. No, that's not how it works. The specific number here of 2,136 is what equates to your parry chance. If you get a buff, and you can go test this in Algathar Academy right now, you can go get the Critical Strike 5% increase buff, and you will notice that your parry chance does not go up, because it actually increases the percentage and not your Critical Strike rating. So Critical Strike is very important to try and upkeep and keep up, because it will increase your base parry chance, which Blood Decay does rely on to an nth degree to be able to mitigate attacks, because the last thing you want is to get globaled, right? So if you can parry 2 out of 3 incoming attacks, 1 or 2, whatever it is, the less attacks you take, the better things are going to go for you, especially in larger pulls. As for stats, haste is very, very important for Blood Death Knight to be able to get the globals that you want off to get off, because every global matters. There are times as Blood where I can tell you 3 globals ahead, like, I just hit it, and I know I screwed up, and I will literally tell my healer, I'm in trouble. And they'll be like, what? What are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, I just die. Like, 3 seconds later, I'm like, I told you I was in trouble! They're like, oh, I didn't mean to. Like, no, I know my rotation, and I know when things are off, and I know when I screwed up. And this is something that, as a Blood Decay, you're going to be able to get along with and understand a little bit better the more that you play it. Mastery. Alright, so each time you heal yourself with Death Strike, you gain X amount of the damage healed, of the amount healed, as a physical absorption shield, and this also increases your attack power. Now, before, Blood Shield wasn't super powerful, and Mastery was not a stat that Blood Decays desired very much. That is now not true because of talents like Ironheart here, which increases your Blood Shield's duration, and it absorbs more. Now, we don't have it talented into here, but you could easily take Umbilicus Eternus and put it into Ironheart. Not a problem. These are 2 different ways that you can kind of work around it. As you're getting started with Blood, I'd probably recommend Umbilicus Eternus, but I go into Ironheart pretty quickly once I get up to 14, 15, 16s, and kind of run through there, right? That's 20% more there. I'll combine with Gloom Ward right here for an extra 15% more absorb affection on you. The absorbs are 15% more effective on you. This does make for a large chunk of healing, and if we look here, Death Strike was 30% of my healing, Blood Shield was 27%, and this is the breakdown for an Algathar no, this is Shadow Moon Burial 18. That was the last key that I did last night. So that's what it is. So this is with Ironheart active. So very, very good, but you're also going to want the mastery to be able to compete with this. So before, blood decays were very haste and versatility. Now you do want to start putting more stats into mastery and more stats into critical strike as well. I wouldn't completely ignore verse, but it is no longer just build haste verse and whatever you get for crit and mastery is whatever you get. Now this is something you want to be watching out for a little bit more, because mastery is a very, very good stat for blood decay now, considering how much blood shield can actually heal you. So what I'll do here is I will actually just talent into Ironheart for the beginner's build. Just take it, and you can find a way to take Umbilicus Eternus if you so wish. That is completely up to you. What Umbilicus Eternus does is after Vamp Blood expires, you absorb equal damage to 5 times the damage your Blood Plague dealt during Vamp Blood. Now, this is going to be a very, very large shield when you combine this with Dancing Rune Weapon. Dancing Rune Weapon summons 2 runes with the Everlasting Bond, 2 rune weapons right next to you, and they mimic everything you do. So you will actually apply 3 stacks of Blood Plague with your Blood Boil, which is up here, which applies your Blood Plague. 3 stacks at once per target while Dancing Rune Weapon is up. So you're going to be able to maximize that Blood Plague damage and get a lot of use of Umbilicus Eternus. I have already had like 700-800k shields out of this, where your bar just kind of doesn't move, but this requires an amount of pre-planning to know when you're going to need that big shield. Like I said, Blood Decay is a very weird and specific class that will make you just say, I'm the healer now. I have already hit 100, 120k HPSs in this season. That's healing per second. Combined with a lot of things like Permafrost, which your auto attack damage grants you an absorb shield equal to 40% of the damage dealt, and a lot of other things like that. So very, very big, very, very strong. As it comes towards blood, you're going to be wanting to focus heavily on your rotation. Like I said earlier, your rotation matters a lot. So when we have to talk about resources. So Blood Decay has 6 runes and a runic power bar. So runic power bar, 6 runes. Heart Strike cost 1 rune. And this is going to be your main rune spender. So it's going to deal damage to, it's going to cleave to targets, and inside your Death and Decay, this will hit 5 targets, so very, very strong, very powerful. This is going to be your main rune spender. Your main runic power spender is going to be Death Strike, something we already talked about a little bit ago. Costs 40 runic power with the talent setup that we have here, and it will heal you for a lot. So the balance is keeping enough runic power to always have a Death Strike on hand, so when you take big damage, you don't parry an attack or whatever have you not, and you need to Death Strike yourself back up, you're going to have that runic power available. So you're playing a game of not wanting to cap on runic power to fully waste resources, but at the same time, always keep enough to have a Death Strike rip-roared and ready to go, or have one at least a global away, because another strong defensive that we have is Will of the Necropolis. So damage taken below 30% health is reduced by 35%. This is not cooldown based. This is always active as long as you are below 30% health. And this is what's going to allow you to be very, very tanky at low health ratios. This is a very powerful ability. This has been very common for Blood Death Knights, and it's recently been applied to Frost and Unholy Decays, just making them absolute monsters. So when it comes to your rotation, you're always going to be wanting to keep a Death and Decay down, because Death and Decay with this build is going to give you 5% increased damage, 5% increased healing, 5% increased haste. This is a very Death and Decay kind of focus build, which is really where it goes. And with Death's Echo, you now get 2 charges of this, which is very, very strong. So you get the 5% haste. And then with Sanguinary Ground, you receive actually 6. This was recently buffed, my bad. It used to be 5, it's now 6. So you get 6% increased damage, and you receive more healing. And your Heart Strike cleaves. So this is very, very important for Death and Decay placement. Blood Boil does a lot of damage. So if we look over here, Blood Boil and Shattering Bone were actually 2 of my most, two of my biggest damage dealing abilities, and Blood Boil deals a lot of damage in AoE scenarios. So this applies your plagues, which is very, very important to be doing, but also deals very, very good damage and is really, really good for snap threat. Blood Boil is going to be one of the first few globals you're going to want to be getting off as you're kind of in the pack. So you can put your Death and Decay down at a distance, walk into it, Blood Boil, start your heart striking, and get everything going. You're going to want to open up with a Death's Caress at a distance, though. Death's Caress has a 30-yard range and will give you 2 stacks of Bone Shield charges just for hitting it. This does have a 6-second cooldown. Whether it should have that or not is not the topic of this video, but whatever, have you not. One of the other things that I like to do as I'm approaching the pack, but I'm not quite in melee range yet, is Dancing Rune Weapon also does have a 30-yard range. So you can open up with Death's Caress and then Dancing Rune Weapon right before you're about to be in melee range. And then as your global comes off, you're in melee range, and then you're good to go. You're in full damage mode and you're set up, because Dancing Rune Weapon with Insatiable Blade will give you 5 stacks of Bone Shield, because so you'll start off with 7 as a pack goes as you start the pack, which is very, very important. A lot of the problems with Blood Decay in the past was getting your set up. So once you were set up, you basically didn't want to drop that, because getting Bone Shield stacks used to be very difficult. Dancing Rune Weapon and Death's Caress has really helped fix that issue. But another thing that we are going to be looking for is Ossuary. This is a passive. While you have at least 5 Bone Shield charges, the cost of runic power is reduced by 5. Additionally, your maximum runic power is increased by 10. So you're going to be able to pool runic power a little bit easier, and Death Strike is going to cost you less while this is active, which is very, very nice for managing runic power, because at 110 runic power, you can actually store up to 3 full Death Strikes by proper runic power management. So now going back to kind of your main abilities, right? The main abilities that you're going to be using are Heart Strike, Death Strike, and Blood Boil for kind of your all-around damage needs. Those are going to apply what you need to and do what you need to be able to kind of win. Always stay within your Death and Decay. Like, always stand in your Death and Decay. And if you have to move, be pre-planning where you want that next Death and Decay to go down. A couple of other offensive options that we do have at our disposal is Slappy Hands. Abomination Limb is a very strong 2-minute cooldown that will pull anything that's CCable directly back to you and kind of keep everything in, which is very, very nice. But you also gain Bone Shield stacks every 6 seconds while this is going. So you get 3 just for pressing the button, and then every 6 seconds you get another 3. This is very easy for, very nice for Bone Shield stack management. Tombstone is officially a damage dealing button. So what Tombstone does is you consume up to 5 Bone Shield charges. For each charge consumed, you gain 6 runic power, and you absorb damage equal to 6% of your maximum health for 8 seconds. So this will be 30% of your maximum health as an absorb, which is great. But where this becomes a damage-dealing ability is in Shattering Bone. When Bone Shield is consumed, it shatters for shadow damage to nearby enemies. This damage is tripled while you are inside your Death and Decay. So as long as you have Death and Decay down and you hit Tombstone with 5 Bone Shield stacks, you're going to notice nice big AoE chunks occurring. And if we open up my 18 Shadow and Burial Ground damage breakdown here, Shattering Bone is the top damage dealing ability. So this is why it's very, very important to be standing inside your Death and Decay at all times. And then lastly, we have Empower Rune Weapon. Empower your Rune Weapon, you gain 15% haste. This is very, very nice. A lot combined with the haste that you get from your Bone Shield, from improved Bone Shield, and all of that fun stuff. But you also generate more runes and runic power during this time for 20 seconds. This is a very powerful and strong ability for Blood Death Knights all around. A few notable mentions here. As a defensive is Anti-Magic Zone. So this is a 2-minute cooldown, which you place in Anti-Magic Zone, which reduces all spell damage taken by party or raid members by 20%. Now this is based off of your current HP. So one of the things that you can do to bolster this is hit Vamp Blood before you put down anti-magic zone to increase your health by 30%, and then you will increase the amount it absorbs by that amount as well. Now, if you ask a disc priest how well it is to get anybody to stand inside their barrier, basically use this as a personal. If DPS want to stand in it, great, but do not expect anyone to stand in this. I have been running Blood DK keys for years now, and every time I drop anti-magic zone, it's like somebody just took a big shit right where I put it, and everyone scatters. And it's like, bro, this isn't meant to help you. This is meant to help you. Well, there are definitely some DPS and healers that utilize anti-magic zone for defensive reasons. In pugs, I don't know why, what it is. You drop it and everyone scatters. Like, no, dude, just stay in. It's gonna help. It's gonna keep you alive. But if you use this as a personal, your good DPS are going to get in it. Your good DPS and healers are going to get into it, and the ones that don't know just don't know, and they can die. Like, it's kind of how it works. It's kind of how it is. But yeah, so all in all, Blood DK is a very powerful tank that can mitigate a lot of damage by healing it back up. You have a lot of tools at your disposal, but your rotation really does matter. So get into the habit of tracking your runic power and your runes, because resource management is key for Blood Death Knight as you're going along. Work on your stats. Haste is your first priority stat, like I said before. Get that up to a good amount. I am happy at 25%, because with the increased 10% from just having Bone Shield up, which you're going to have all of the time anyway, and having access to things like Empower Rune Weapon, honestly, like, you don't need much more than that, and then start focusing more on critical strike, mastery, and then adding versatility. For a consumable, I do suggest the Phial of Tepid Versatility. This will increase your versatility by 745 as a 3-star, like a 3-star crafted phial. This is good for all tanks, but Blood DK just makes very, very good use out of this. It's all around consistent. I know you might say, hey, I just said all stats are good for Blood DK, why not Elemental Chaos? The problem with Elemental Chaos is you never know what you're getting next, and planning around that is bothersome. Where this, you just straight up get versatility all the time, and it's a very, very nice way to bolster your versatility to where you want it and where you need it, to have that baseline where you can start focusing more on critical strike and mastery, which is actually why I don't like where my critical strike is currently, which is why I'm actually running a Hunger of the Pack, just to kind of bolster that a little bit of as well. Is this the best thing for Blood DK? No, but it's also an easy way for me to get a stat stick where I want, right? So if you kind of look things like that, you can work stats around with things like Horn of Valor, which is a straight verse buff. You have the Windscar Whetstone out of Court of Stars, which is a straight up mastery buff, and the trinket itself deals a nice chunk of damage. And Hunger of the Pack, which will give you critical strike. You can also use Blaze Binder's Hoof, which will give you a bunch of haste, which is kind of what I'm doing now. I haven't had a whole lot of luck with with some of the stats that I wanted and some of the trinkets, so I am using the stat stick kind of trinkets, and it's working out very, very well for me, and it's allowing me to manage my secondary stats to where I want them to be. While I am still in the process of getting this geared up, I would like another 10 item levels solid on my Blood DK before I say it's done. There's definitely some things that I can do here, but yeah. So if you're playing Blood DK, you mad lad, have fun. It is an absolutely enjoyable spec that is just going to have you screaming out, I'm the healer now. So with that, thank you very much for listening to version 2 of the Beginner's Guide to Blood DK, and thanks again to my patrons for making videos like this happen. Have yourselves a good one. Bye.